I'll read through this checklist to ensure that the meeting we are holding is in compliance with the right to know law. As chair of the Hunger Commission, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04 and its extension, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting, and all members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously watch and or listen to the meeting on Zoom, YouTube, and via phone by following the directions and links provided on the General Court website. We have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please email remotesenate@ledge.state.nh.us or call 603-271-3043. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Finally, we will start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state where they are and if anyone else is in the room with you during this meeting. This is required under the right to know law, and I will now call the roll. Claire Bloom.
I'm Claire Bloom. I'm Executive Director of N68 Hours of Hunger. I'm here at my home and I am on my own.
Great, thank you. Representative Mary Jane Wallner.
Mary Jane Wallner. I'm in my home in Concord, New Hampshire, and my husband's in the other room.
Mary Lou Beaver.
Mary Lou Beaver, I'm the director of the Children's Place and Parent Education Center, a program of Waypoint in Concord, and I am at my home in Rochester, and I am alone.
Thank you. Maureen Burke.
I'm Maureen Burke, the administrator of the SNAP program for the state of New Hampshire. I am in my home in Wilmot, New Hampshire, alone.
Thank you. Susan Wunk. How do I pronounce your last name?
Winnock.
Winnock, okay.
Yeah.
A W and N, Winnock, okay, great.
I'm Susan Winnock. I'm Director of Community Health and Nutrition Services at Community Action Program, Belknap, Merrimack Counties, and I am in my office in Concord, and I'm alone.
Thank you. Laura Milliken.
Hi, I'm Laura Milliken. I'm the Executive Director of New Hampshire Hunger Solutions, and I'm in my home in Concord, and there's no one else in the room.
Thank you. Sherry White.
White of the New Hampshire Department of Education. I am in my home in Newfields, New Hampshire, and I am in my house with my husband.
Thank you. William Sherry.
Good afternoon, everybody. Bill Sherry, Chief Operating Officer of Granite United Way in 211 New Hampshire. I'm at my home in Windham, New Hampshire. My wife is also home in the other end of the house.
Thank you. Brendan Minahan.
Yes, hi, I'm Brendan Minahan. I'm the Superintendent of Schools for the Newport School District. I am here all alone in my office here in Newport.
Elise Bolster.
Hi everyone, Elise Bolster, the Nutrition Programs Manager here at the New Hampshire Food Bank. I am in my office and I am alone.
And if you could speak. Yeah.
I'm sorry, you didn't hear me?
No, I can't see the next person, so I know there's someone else that's there. You need to
Marcy
unmute.
Hornick.
Hornick, Grafton
Thank you,
County
Marcy.
Attorney. Hi, Senator Clark. Marcy, Grafton County Attorney, New Hampshire Bar Association. I'm in my office and there's no one else here.
Excellent. And I'm Senator Martha Fuller Clark, and I'm in my office in York, and I am alone in my office, but my daughter might be walking through at some point. So I just wanted to
Senator,
clarify. Yes.
Senator, I'm sorry. I think you missed Laura Milken. I think she's just further down for you.
No, you
And,
can-
and this is Rebecca Wojtkowski, the Kids Count Policy Coordinator at New Futures, and I am at home in my home in Bedford with my 2 children. I'm here
I
too.
forwarded Rebecca my link, so I think that's why you're seeing her as, Rebecca, you're appearing as me.
Oh,
Right.
I'm sorry. That is strange. Okay,
All right,
thanks.
we'll just make sure that you're recorded, Rebecca, and thank you very much for clarifying. I really appreciate that. So I'm not absolutely clear in terms of what everybody has received. The first thing we need to do, however, is to designate someone today who would take the minutes for the meeting. And then we need to approve the minutes for the last meeting. And I know Diane Fitzpatrick did the meetings when we met 2 weeks ago, did an excellent job. But is there someone who would be willing to do that today? I need a volunteer. Claire, thank you so very much. I appreciate it. And then the next thing would be a motion to approve the minutes from September 22nd. And a second, and then we can discuss the minutes.
I'll move approval.
Thank you, Mary Jane. Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mary Lou Beaver or Sherry White. Okay, so are there any corrections to the minutes, and have you all received a copy of them? Mary Lou.
Senator, I am listed as representing Every Child Matters. Every Child Matters closed their doors. I now work for Waypoint, and I have been asked to be the representative for Waypoint.
Okay, so we were just going to check to make sure that it's all right for you to be able to represent 2 different organizations. I don't see why not, but we're glad to have you doing it in the meantime.
So Senator, Mary Lou is only going to be representing Waypoint. Every Child Matters is no longer in operation. So it's just superfluous.
Okay, great. That clarifies that. Thank you very much. And we will note that in the minutes for today. Are there any other comments or corrections to the minutes that came out? And did everyone receive them? Is there anyone who did not receive them? Okay, so then we have a number of items that were sent out, and I wanted to thank everybody. But I wanted first to draw your attention to an event that's going to be held tomorrow, which is an update of hunger in New Hampshire, put out by the New Hampshire Children's Health Association. I have left a message with Claire Garceau to find out, even though people were supposed to have signed up by Sunday, if there's anyone on our commission who would like to attend tomorrow, and see if I can get those individuals signed up. It is from 3:30 to 5 p.m. and obviously it is a Zoom meeting.
Senator,
So,
this is Susan Winoka. I'm already registered for it, so I will be attending.
great, Susan, that's great. Is there anyone else who's already registered?
I am Laura Milliken.
Okay,
This is Mary Jane, and I am registered.
okay, Mary Lou, are you registered?
I am not. I'm not available during that time, Senator.
Okay, now is there anyone else?
Registered, Maureen Burke is also registered.
Great. Now, is there anyone who is not registered who would like me to request that they be signed up?
Senator, I registered, but I registered past the date, so I'm not sure if like an approval needed to happen for it to go through. I don't think that
Okay,
I received the
I
confirmation.
will check and get back to you, all right?
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, So that's taken care of, and that's good, and we'll see. And maybe at our next meeting, people can report from the meeting for those who are not able to attend. Now, I wanted to start out with the email that I got from Mary Lou Beaver just after our meeting 2 weeks ago, that it had to do with the FRAC update and the fact that the House of Representatives voted to pass a continuing resolution and what it means for childhood hunger. And Mary Lou, would you want to go through, did everybody get a copy of this or not? Yes, no, raise your hand if you got a copy. Okay, we'll make sure that everybody gets a copy, but Mary Lou, maybe you could go through it briefly and just highlight the key components of that FRAC email.
Senator, I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but I'm wondering if maybe Maureen would be able to talk about it.
Well, I have it in front of me.
Okay.
If you want me to go through it, and then if I've forgotten something, Maureen, you can help me out, okay?
That would be great, Senator, and I will pull it up out of mine as well in just a second. Thank you.
Okay, so this memo that came from FRAC announced that the House of Representatives passed a continuing resolution and they passed it the night of the 22nd, that will go a long way in addressing childhood hunger, which has grown to even more alarming rates during COVID-19. The pandemic, and for Claire, you don't have to write all this down. We'll just attach this memo so you can just note that we shared it with the members of the Hunger Commission. The Pandemic Electronic Benefit Transfer Program, known as PEBT, which provides families an EBT card to purchase food to replace the school meals their children are missing while learning remotely, has been extended through fiscal year 2021. The continuing resolution makes a number of improvements to the PEBT, including providing benefits to children who have a reduction in the number of days or hours they are physically in school or childcare. It allows Puerto Rico and other territories to implement the PEBT program and provides funding to cover states' administrative costs. Since its implementation, families have shared with us the importance of the PEBT program, saying that it has lifted the burden of choosing between feeding their families and paying the bills. Already, the program has lifted at least 2.7 to 3.9 million children out of hunger. That's a pretty staggering statistic. Those are my parentheses. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's authority to issue child nutrition waivers has also been extended through fiscal year 2021 to help mitigate the impact of millions of children losing access to free and reduced price school meals as schools remain shuttered due to the pandemic. The department also was given the authority to extend WIC administrative waivers, including waiving the requirement for in-person WIC clinic visits through September 30th, 2021. In addition, the continuing resolution provides a state supplemental nutrition assistance program agencies with the needed flexibilities to adjust operations during COVID-19. And as we all know, that's SNAP. It allows states without obtaining prior USDA approval to opt for many of the waivers that were made available earlier in COVID-19. These include waivers on deadlines for SNAP interviews, participant reporting, and eligibility recertifications. During a challenging time of remote program operations and increased need for benefits, these adjustments will help ease workload burdens on agencies and streamline SNAP access for people eligible for SNAP. FRAC's latest study, Not Enough to Eat, COVID-19 Deepens Americans' Hunger Crisis. I can send you to the link for that study. It reveals households with children are more likely to report that they don't have enough to eat. In 38 states in the District of Columbia, more than 1 in 10 adults with children said they did not have enough to eat. Hunger is disproportionately affecting households of color, as more than 1 in 5 Black and Latinx adults with children reported that sometimes or often they did not have enough to eat in July of 2020. While the continuing resolution, temporary investments are an important step for children who are learning remotely or in a hybrid learning model or in childcare, millions of families are still struggling. It's important to urge Congress to extend the relief packages that include benefit boosts to SNAP and makes investments in other critical programs that assist people in sharing their basic needs during COVID-19. It ends by saying, hungry people can't wait. So I have read that memo. I'd like to know if there's now an opportunity for questions or discussion. No comments? So again, what I'm concerned about is what are we seeing happen? And we got some data for that, with regard to New Hampshire and being able to access the hunger benefits through the waiver program. And we heard 2 weeks ago that there is a real challenge in getting that information out to people who are qualified to be able to receive those benefits, and that they're not sure how then to go about accessing those benefits and if they are accessing those benefits. So that is a question and a challenge, and we need to look at how that can be addressed. And is there any way to help legislatively? So then I also received Maureen Burke sent me additional information regarding the Kinship Navigator program. And I'm wondering, Maureen, if you wanted to speak about that.
What I sent to the group was a flyer about the Kinship Navigator program, which provides services to families through the Family Resource Centers. The actual flyer does have locations on a map of where all the Family Resource Centers are in the state. This program is being administered under a larger program, which we call Comprehensive Family Support and Services. And the contact person for that program is Susan Watson. So if you would like additional information on the Kinship Navigator program, it's basically a program where Family Resource Centers help connect relatives, grandparents, kinship caregivers to resources to help take care of children. So again, the contact would be Susan Watson, and that's susan.watson@dhhs.nh.gov.
And I will reach out to her to see if she has anything that she would like to share with our commission. I also wanted to just ask, is there a good definition under this program of who qualifies under kinship? I know you said it's grandparents, it's relatives, but is there a more sort of legal definition that determines who is eligible to access this program?
I think Mary Lou wants to weigh in. I don't have the eligibility criteria for it personally, but go ahead, Mary Lou, maybe you could.
The program is open to those who are taking care of or acting as the caregiver for relative children. It can be grandparents, it can be aunts and uncles, cousins, it can be a sibling. And they do not need to be in the under DCYF authority. They can be legal guardians, they can have them through informal care. So it's for anyone who is taking care of kin, children who are kin. Although we have been allowed to do friends of family who are legal guardians of the children as well, in some cases. We want to ensure that, all of those that are caring for children who are not there, who do not have their parents to provide for them, are getting the services and the resources that they need. The Children's Place in Concord is the Concord Navigator, where the Concord Kinship Navigator resides, and I'm filling that role right now.
So thank you very much, Mary Lou. Could you tell me, is there an issue in terms of being able to link up with those people eligible under the kinship program, just like we were hearing for some of the other programs, or is there adequate promotion and information available?
The program is on the New Hampshire Children's Trust website. We do, each of the navigators in the Family Resource Centers are also responsible for doing outreach. I have done outreach with the school department, the private schools, with pediatricians and doctors' offices, with other agencies that work with children and families as well. What I am finding right now is that I am starting to see an influx of caregivers who are in need, and very, very different needs depending on the families themselves. But I think we're starting to see a real uptick in caregivers knowing about the program and reaching out for help and services now.
So do you believe that perhaps one of the reasons that uptick is occurring is because people have lost their federal supports as of September?
That is an issue for some of the families. They're just struggling through, the process with COVID-19. Some are struggling with how to navigate the way the schools are now with online learning and with hybrid learning, and with childcare and the lack of childcare that is now available. There's a lot of different things happening. Some are worried about being able to continue to pay their rent or their mortgage, and there's many different reasons. The seasons are changing, the kids are growing, and they need clothes, and income is always an issue with many of the caregivers that we're talking to as well.
Thank you. Would anyone else have any questions or points that they would like to raise with regard to the kinship program?
Senator, I am just learning about this program, so I am going to share it with all of the WIC agencies in the state so that they can do outreach with their local resource centers, because any family that's either foster care children are automatically eligible for WIC regardless of the income of the family. But we may also have others who have Medicaid or food stamps for the children that would be eligible to participate in WIC as well. So I'm so glad to learn about this because I wasn't familiar with it, and I think it'll be a good resource for us to reach out to some families that may or may not have any idea about the WIC program. So
Terrific.
I'm going to do that.
Thank you so much, and I'm so glad that this is important information to share. I'm wondering with the various food banks, if there's any sort of, I know you said that you included a flyer, but are those flyers and so forth available at, like, when people go to pick up their food through the food banks, or is that another way to get information out to individuals?
I think that question was probably for Elise.
I'll check with the Children's Trust and see who they have been sending it out to, and if they have not included the food banks in that, I will ask them if they can do that as well.
I just think it's a great way to perhaps reach a larger number of individuals throughout the state who are in need.
Yes, if anyone would like to contact the Children's Trust to get flyers or, seek additional information, the contact at the Children's Trust is Jolynn Drennan or Diane Yo. Their phone number is 415-0506.
So do you want to repeat that?
Jolyn, it's Joelyn Drennan. She's the Senior Program Director for the Kinship Navigator Program. And her number is 415-0506. And the other Kinship Navigator Family Support Specialist is Diane Yo. It's YEO. And her number is 415-0327.
Great, thank you very much. And Claire, were you able to get that to put into the minutes?
I did get that. Thank you very much. And I also wanted to mention that although we don't have the resources to print flyers, if somebody wants to get addresses from me to mail flyers, we can put them all in the N68 Hours of Hunger bags. And those are going to go to some 2,500 New Hampshire children. And again, Elise might have an idea about how to get them into New Hampshire food bags, et cetera.
Yeah, when I saw the Kinship as well, thank you for sharing, Mary Lou and Maureen. I was thinking when I initially saw it, I mean, Cooking Matters focuses on parents and caregivers of younger children and connecting them with the resource Cooking Matters and how they can get some nutrition and culinary education with an incentive for maybe something they haven't heard about before because they're not a parent, is the direction I was going with it. But to go a step further, I think that I could connect with our agency relations department and see what avenue would be best to connect them with other resources that might be helpful for the pantries that and the agencies that we serve. So the best way to do that is to contact Children's Trust and see if we can get some flyers to then distribute. Can connect with agency relations and see if they're knowledgeable of it or if some of our pantries are already kind of offering that at some of their locations.
And I was going to mention as well that when we were talking previously about the PEBT memo, that's another memo that probably needs to be shared with the E68 families as well as with the food bank families. And again, it's an issue of we don't really have the capacity to print them, but we can get them to people who can print them and get them into our food bags. Not that everything that's put into our food bags gets read or gets read by a responsible party, but at least we can make that effort to get it out there.
That would be terrific. Other comments?
Yeah, just when the PEBT came out, which is something that we can do again, we did a social media post for those that needed to apply for it, for those that weren't already receiving SNAP. The additional parents needed to apply for those benefits, and we sent, you know, a social media blast describing what they would need to do in order to do so. And I think it was a great outreach and awareness component for that. So I can write that down as an action item for the new waiver that came out.
Terrific. Okay, so Elise, I know that you also sent out a written update from what you gave us 2 weeks ago, and I wondered if everyone has received that. Okay. And if you had anything that you wanted to add at this point.
I'm happy to take any questions. I know Sherry, she kind of commented and was able to provide a little bit more information because I provided information regarding the summer meals and the school nutrition waivers. So I can leave it as an opportunity for her. As far as the food bank goes, you know, I provided the numbers. If anyone has any questions regarding what I provided, I'm happy to try to answer them. Sorry, I'm reviewing what I sent.
Great. Any questions that you have for Elise? So then also Laura Milliken, you sent out a written update as well that you shared with the commission. And I wondered if there's anything that you wanted to highlight again from that report, or if there's anything that you wanted to add.
So those are you know, not our research. Those are data from FRAC and from Feeding America and from the New Hampshire Food Bank, that just shows that, you know, we're not doing a great job in New Hampshire in participation in federal programs relative to other states. So I just, you know, wanted to share that.
So what could we be doing to improve the state standing in terms of taking advantage of these programs at the federal level?
I mean, I think that's a longer conversation. I think that it's, you know, it's not, you know, for any ill will by anybody who's running programs in New Hampshire, in my opinion. I think that the participation in, for example, school breakfast, you know, is about schools' capacity to do the kind of administrative and sometimes physical work that it takes to create programs. I'm sure Sherry could speak to this at length. And I think, you know, for each of those programs, I'm sure Maureen would have something to say about participation in SNAP. You know, I mean, I think there are lots of things that other states are doing that we might be able to do. I think we need to have a conversation about each of them in turn, and about how we can better utilize the federal dollars that are there.
So I guess there's also, well, it's not, I mean, I didn't mean to insinuate that people weren't doing a good job with their programs. I think that the issue is that schools are reluctant to participate. And so maybe Sherry, you could talk a little bit more about that from what you see.
Let's see. So there's been a number of things that have been discussed. So one of them was the breakfast program. Thanks to this particular group and to you, Senator, there was a bill that was passed last year or the year before that allowed the payment of reduced breakfasts. So it's the family portion of the reduced breakfast that is now paid for by the state of New Hampshire.
Sherry, has that increased the number of people applying?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. So
okay.
Prior to COVID, and that's where a lot of our normal data comes from right now, we were on a course to increase. We were at the point where we had increased the breakfast to 30% at that point, which I consider a success.
And what was it before?
Our state.
Do you know what it was before when you say you increased it by 30% or up to 30%? Is it you increased it by 30%?
Increased it by 30%. It increased
great.
Numbers of breakfasts by 30%. Okay. So that is a really good thing. What those types of things take, however, is, I believe, a marketing program. And schools are not always in the place, situation, have the money or the professional skill to be able to truly market a particular benefit like that. And I think that a lot of times for any one of the items for families to partake in them, really a marketing program needs to be had.
And who should take the responsibility to create that marketing program? Is it school by school, or is it something that could come out of the DOE? What would you suggest?
The DOE doesn't necessarily, well, take that back. We do have a contractor who potentially could do something like that. as far as whether or not the DOE could take the responsibility to do that, I am not in the place to say that on behalf of the commissioner without contacting him first.
Sure, understood, but it would be one way to go to develop a marketing plan. So maybe you could inquire and report back to us and see if there would be a way. And I don't know if there would be grants available anywhere to help pay for the development of that.
I would have to speak to the administration at DOE.
Sure,
I
sure.
will definitely report back.
Great, okay. Then I know that there was a bill that was filed last year to even expand the coverage for breakfast and lunch. It didn't go anywhere, partially due to the COVID situation and the quote unquote collapse of the legislature. I don't know if that will be refiled this year, and I don't know what the cost implications are to do that. And I don't know how much research was done ahead of time. You'll remember once upon a time, my breakfast bill was to cover breakfast for everyone. And it was a cost that was just considered too high. And that's why we stepped back and just went to cover those young people eligible under the reduced breakfast program. So I'll put that on my to-do list to try to find out where that's at. But as we all know, this is going to be an incredibly difficult budgetary process going forward. So expecting the state to be able to step forward at this point is probably not very realistic. Brendan, could you talk a little bit? I mean, you spoke 2 weeks ago about what was happening in your school.
Mm-hmm. So actually,
how do you market your program?
Well, it's actually quite a bit more challenging in the land of COVID, partly out of good intentions, I think. So for example, we have received a waiver so that we can continue to offer free meals to families without filling out all of the forms that they normally would have to fill out, the free and reduced forms. Unfortunately, we still need people to fill those out, and they're not doing it because there isn't any sort of incentive for them to do it. So right now, in terms of the marketing that you're talking about, we're really trying to figure out how to market that and how to get our families to fill out the free and reduced form by telling them that this is not going to last forever. The latest it can last is December 31st, this free meal type thing. In terms of breakfast, we actually probably have a fairly high percentage of families that participate because we also have a fairly high percentage normally of free and reduced. We're somewhere between, I think typically 52 to 60% qualified for free and reduced.
And what age group is that principally?
Basically, it's the whole district as a whole, but what we see typically is that the younger kids avail themselves to it more and that the older kids do not, partly because of any stigma that may be attached to it, but also because they have part-time jobs too, and they want to get the a la carte items that aren't covered, so. But I think people are doing the best they can. We work today on if we have to go to remote instruction at some point, how do we continue to feed the kids? And we have a plan for that. So we keep, that's sort of, I don't want to say we're working in kind of crisis mode because it's not like that, but the things that take our attention are not the things that normally would take our attention.
So would you be able to share that plan with this commission?
Or how we're going to do deliveries?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
Great. Because we know that if you're doing at-home deliveries or and that people can't come and pick up because they don't have adequate transportation. So it would just be useful to see some models of maybe successful outreach that could be shared with other schools and school districts.
Yes, Senator. It's actually very interesting that it's easier to provide the meals when everyone is remote than when the kids are in the school, yet we have about 20% of our families doing remote, and we just don't have the transportation capacity to deliver the meals. So we say, hey, if you want to come and pick them up, you can, but then you run into what you said, Senator, about the transportation.
Interesting. Okay, so that's, you have a question, a comment, Mary Lou.
I have a question, if I may, for Sherry. The PEBT program is for many families who are already on SNAP and those who are not on SNAP, but whose children qualified for free or reduced meals through their application that the schools give them. Do you happen to know if the schools are getting those applications out, those that are doing online as well as those that are in session and doing a hybrid? Are they getting out to the families so that they can fill those out? So as PBT comes, back in through the continuing resolution, we'll know families that are eligible and the children who are eligible for this.
Yes, they are. Just as Brendan was mentioning, they are all trying to get the families to complete the applications. But it is hard because, as Brendan said, there is no incentive right now to be able to do that. And we have been in discussions at the DOE. The marketing piece was on my mind for this particular reason, because we are trying to figure out how the best way to get the word out to families in a global statewide fashion, that if you feel that you qualify for free or reduced meals, please be sure to complete a free and reduced application. So we are having those discussions, and I will add the breakfast piece onto those discussions.
So are any press releases going out to our papers statewide to be able to draw this program to a larger number of individuals? I realize some of those individuals don't see the paper, but I'm just wondering about using the media one way or another, or on Facebook, or.
That is a definite major piece of what we've been discussing. And yes, there is a start of something to be written for the media.
Okay.
Also, Senator, I could add, like on a district level, we do a lot of things with Facebook regarding, fill out your free and reduced application. We also have the capacity to send messages home to all families, auditorily as well as by email and such, and we do that as well. I really think the incentive piece is really challenging. I don't know where we are now, but last I knew, we normally get 400 or 500 families that qualify, and we were at like 100, 120, something like that.
So could you speak a little bit more about the incentive piece? I'm not sure I understand it or how it worked or what is needed to create incentives.
Sure, I'll start, and Sherry probably knows a lot more than I do regarding this, but basically, if a family feels like they cannot afford hot lunch, right, or breakfast, they'll fill out the free and reduced form, because otherwise, at least in years past, their children would either get a really big bill or they used to get some nominal type meal. So the incentive was, if we fill out this form, then we get our meals at either no cost or at a reduced cost. But because of the waiver that was obtained, all families, regardless of whether or not they fill out those forms, can get meals for free. And so we're saying to the families, yes, we understand you're getting the meals for free, but we still need you to fill out this form. And they're sort of
Why?
thinking, I'm guessing, like, why would I do that? You know?
That's very interesting. We eliminate bureaucracy, and in the process, we eliminate participation.
Well, and it's huge for us too, and for many districts, because not only does it tie into the food piece, but a lot of our grant allocations are
Right.
predicated on that number. And so we stand to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars because people aren't filling out these forms.
Just to be clear, it's not that people aren't participating, it's that the eligibility has broadened. So people are participating, so there's no incentive to fill out the forms
Fill out
because
the
everybody
But
qualifies.
are you not able to use the number of people participating even if you don't have the specific forms, or there's no way to collect that data?
Oh, I don't know, Sherry, that would be awesome to me, but I don't get the sense that they'll let us do that.
One thing to add is that students who are directly certified, and Maureen and I worked closely on this for PEBT, those families are already known. And those numbers, the SAUs can continue to still use. So it's the free and reduced by application households, income application households. Those are the ones that are not known unless the family completes the free and reduced application. And those are the ones that we are obviously very concerned about. But I did want to add that clarifier as well. And thank you, Laura, for clarifying the piece that you did too.
And I'd like to weigh in a little bit here on this topic, because although we just learned about PEBT becoming available for the federal fiscal year, FNS has yet to release guidance on what that will look like, other than to verbally indicate to states in the New England region in our call on Monday that the funds will be available. And we will have to enter into a brand new agreement with the Department of Education. They have indicated that there will be new guidance, as well as a new template for a state plan, which is something that we developed in cooperation between DHHS and DOE. Should the state go in the direction of doing this again for the federal fiscal year, that alone could become an incentive depending on what the guidance says. What we know from PBT in the past is that we needed to have proof that the child was enrolled in the National School Lunch Program in order to provide the benefit. So if they're not filling the forms out, perhaps getting the additional $5.70 per day, which is what it was. I can't say that's what it will be, but based on our past experience, that money on an EBT card per child per day could be an incentive for families to fill out the form, because they would be getting both. They would be getting the free school meals plus an EBT card with the additional pandemic EBT funds available. So we're not quite sure if it'll be something that both commissioners, they have to get together now and decide once FNS releases the guidance. They'll have to have their meetings, and then Sherry and I, of course, will be tasked with putting a new state plan together and a new program.
Did they give you any idea when that federal guidance might be available?
It should be coming out any day. I mean, they just learned and shared with us on our call on Monday. So we have a regional call every Monday, and they said, don't do anything yet. Please sit tight until we release the new guidance, because it's not going to be exactly the same as it has been in the past. So we will see.
Mary Lou.
I have a question. The continuing resolution also included childcare in that for children who were not in childcare physically for the same amount of hours or days. Did you hear anything about how that, or Sherry, do you know how that's going to work in? Are they going to use our CACFP, Child and Adult Food Program applications that we're required to have for our meals in childcare?
Yeah, I'll just answer your question, but I think Maureen can probably fill this in a lot better than I can. So what I'm keep hearing from our Northeast Regional Office during our weekly meetings is that this continuing resolution did layer in child and adult care food program. We're all a little concerned because it is more difficult for us to be able to transfer information to DHHS for CACFP. And so, you know, I'm not really, the devil's going to be in the details on this one for sure, as far as whether or not we can do what we need to do for it.
Thank you. Maureen, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything really except to say it will expand, you know, the partnership to yet a third party. So, you know, it will take quite a bit to get this right, but, you know, I have my fingers crossed. I definitely hope to do this. And it's just going to take a lot of collaboration. And this, by the way, also does include, Sherry's referring to it as a marketing campaign. FNS, for our purposes, it's a public information campaign. So there is a component to this as well. So we should probably learn from the past and maximize it a little bit better than the first time around.
Great. Other comments or thoughts? So, Rebecca, do you have anything you'd like to share with the Hunger Commission at this point?
Not today. I just really enjoyed being part of the conversation and listening to everything that is going on. So thank you.
Okay. Well, it certainly seems from what we're looking at that, you know, the hunger issue, not just for children, but for a segment of our population nationwide and in the state of New Hampshire, it has been significantly impacted by COVID. I'm not exactly sure what steps the legislature can take. I would be interested in having thoughts as to what else you would like to know this fall, and where we might go with the commission over the next month.
Senator, I have a request or just something to bring to the attention of the commission. I put this in, I know I sent out a lot of documents, but I thought they might be useful in writing the report. But New Hampshire has not participated in the WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program for about 10 years now. The department, DHHS, had decided to give that program up, mostly because of the administrative burden of it. But there is a required match for the program in order to participate. In order for us to bring it, and in order for the state to bring it back, we would have to get the match. And so I did talk with the state director, and she's thinking that it would be about $10,000 that would be needed to bring back the program. I know that all of the WIC agencies are really interested. It not only helps support, you know, hunger issues with our families, but it also helps the agricultural industry in the state, especially the small farmers who oftentimes are themselves struggling with issues of food insecurity. So if there's a way for that to be considered, that would be something I know that we would be really interested in trying to get the initial funding back into the state. It's not a large amount of money. They're anticipating about $90,000 to start with. And I think as you grow the program and can increase the amount that you give to each individual participant, you know, with subsequent years, if we do get it back, we could increase the amount each year. So I just wanted to bring that up. The other thing I wanted to just mention, and Maureen, you can chime in here, the WIC program and the SNAP program have worked together to get a linkage for the, am I correct on this, the application? So WIC, so if someone applied, I think this is very unique across the country, and I know FNS and USDA is very excited about this. When they apply for SNAP, they can also send in an application, the information in for WIC, which will make it a lot easier. It will also get people directly to us without having to make an additional call. So I really want to commend the partners at DHHS that have worked on this, because without them, it wouldn't have happened. And I think will be a good model to be used across the country for other states to increase access, because anybody that applies applies for that's a pregnant postpartum breastfeeding woman or has a child up to the age of 5 that's a SNAP participant is automatically eligible for WIC. We already have an opportunity, which all of us use, to go online to look for potential participants, and we contact them ourselves. But we're hoping that this will increase access for families that, you know, they just don't want to make the second call. So I don't know if Maureen had anything to offer about that.
Yeah, I've been working a little bit with Lisa Seroist and connecting her with our staff at New Heights, and they've been working to do a New Hampshire Easy, I believe, application for WIC, and that's the part of the system. It'll connect with us. So yeah, it's very exciting. It's very exciting.
So let me ask you, going back to needing that $10,000, has there been any thought of reaching out to the Department of Agriculture and seeing if they could provide that match, since this is going to be helpful to small farmers in the state?
That's something that I will talk to Lisa, my state director, about, and also possibly my contacts at the Department of Agriculture. That's a great idea, Senator. Thank you.
So the other thought I had was, is there a way that the private sector could meet that match, or are there limitations on where that match has to come from? Do you know, Susan?
I just muted myself. I don't know the answer to that, but I will ask if that is a possibility, to see if that's something that we could also reach out maybe and get a special grant award or something from one of the agencies that supports local.
One of the nonprofits that is really focused in on trying to make sure that we have good infant health in the state. So that would be helpful to know. I mean, it really is in relationship to everything else that we're talking about, an incredibly insignificant amount of money to be able to sustain that program. So I'd like to think about, you know, various ways that that match could be met.
Okay.
Okay, so what else would you like to look at or know this fall with regard to child hunger in New Hampshire? As you know, the commission has a life of 2 more years after these 2 years. I will work with Mary Jane to find someone else to head up this commission. I took it over from Molly Kelly when she stepped aside in the Senate. But we do have some time left to continue to at least get you information that you might need. I hope all these updates have been helpful. And I'm not quite sure from a legislative point of view what could be happening right now, but I think it's certainly one of the things that would be important, I think, is to find a way to share the information that we've gathered with the full legislature, not have it just go sit somewhere and never read or understood. I think legislators need to have a better understanding of child hunger in New Hampshire. And when I tell people that we had, and I don't know what the number is now, 40,000 children a night in New Hampshire going to bed hungry, I don't think we do enough to get that information out into the broader public and to the citizens at large. So I don't know what your thoughts are about that. I think that, the difficulty that we have is that New Hampshire is always touted as one of the best places to live, one of the best places to raise a family. And yet for, over 100,000 people in our state, that is not the case. And we need to try to get those individuals in the state, and it may be going up if we continue to see the challenge of COVID continuing, to alert the public at large as to the fact that, this is a state crisis and it's a national crisis. And when I think that, I don't know if it's, taking a report to the Business and Industry Association so that the businesses focus in on what's happening in the various committees there, understand what we're dealing with, and try just to raise the consciousness and the compassion in the state. But what do other people think?
Senator, I think that
Sherry, do you want to speak?
you're forward thinking. Yep, I'm speaking. Can you hear me?
Now, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering if, for example, Susan just brought up the farmers market for WIC. And we have a farm to school program in the schools. I'm wondering how, and often what happens is that the provision of services in federal programs is looked upon as some sort of stigma. And the way to, I believe, further the federal programs is to normalize in some fashion the service that it is providing. And so I'm wondering if, for example, somehow I could work with Lisa on the farmers market and connect it to farm to school, so that there's some, that no one is looked upon as having to, not pay for something when they go to a farmer's market and they have to put in vouchers and that kind of thing. I'm not being very eloquent in what I'm saying, but I appreciate what you just said, because this is something that I feel very passionate about, is normalizing things for families who are going through an abnormal time.
So other thoughts or comments to what Sherry raised? And I wondered if you would all like to hear more from the farm to school program.
Senator, if I could just chime in on that. One of the things that we're seeing at 211 is an increasing number of calls for help with basic needs, and not food being part of it. We see it in the form of rental assistance and utility bill assistance, and from many people who prior to the pandemic never needed help or never needed to reach out to help. And where we're seeing a choke point on the other end are the agencies that are trying to deliver the help. There's challenges with intake. so that the community action agencies and the other organizations that are trying to deliver the help don't have enough help. They can't get people. So to the average person looking for help, it's an extremely complex process. You know, I have to go to one agency for help with rent. I have to go someplace else to find out about WIC. I have to go someplace else to find out about SNAP. And all the different programs have their own rules and requirements, but to the person looking for help, it's just confusing. So I don't know.
I couldn't agree more, and I don't know. Sherry, I saw your note. Thank you. I don't know if there's a way to be able within the state to streamline that program, but you know, so there. I mean, are there some ways to have a portal? It still doesn't address the issue that the applications are different from all these programs, but at least some way to have a central clearinghouse that individuals in need could go to be able to, you know, learn about all of these different programs.
But if I could, one example where I apologize for not speaking too clearly today, is during the pandemic, the state actually did, DHHS actually did a good job with its COVID-19 websites. Mm-hmm. So, and put a lot of information in one place, all things COVID related, so that people could at least have one repository to go and start looking for information, whether it's, you know, how to find a test site to what do I need to do, you know, and very quickly, you know, they were able to pull that together. So I think from the standpoint of 211, being able to direct somebody to more of a single source for help, and if the state could do, realizing resources are going to be tremendously tight, but putting more help around intake workers or, you know, workers at the community level that could help people access the variety of programs that they need.
Maybe there's a way to start just building on that COVID site and see what else we might be able to do. I don't know whom, but you can all help me. It would be good to talk to you, who it would be good to talk to at DHHS to see if there would be a way to have a clearing site on the web.
Are you asking me that question, Senator?
I'm asking anyone who
I don't know
who I might reach out to.
So I may be in left field, but I'm wondering if it's possible to use some of the CARES Act dollars, which need to be spent before the end of the year, to bolster some of the marketing work that we're talking about.
Well, I think we could certainly make a request through Gopher and see, but that money would also have to be spent by December 31st, though I do know that there is an effort going forward. Most states are saying, we can't spend all this money by December 21st. Can you please extend the deadline, which creates some more flexibility. But I think, Laura, that's a good idea. We would need to know what we would request of Gopher, and maybe I can think about that and work with some of you a little bit more, but that's it. Mary Jane, you're on the Gopher?
I am.
And so do you think it would be possible to request some funding to be able to market the various programs that are available to help people who are experiencing food insecurity?
Yeah, I do think it would be, I think it would be a good proposal for Gopher to look at. But I think it's got to happen quick. We're actually meeting we're having a meeting next week on the 13th, but then we're having another meeting on the 27th of October. And I would say that, you know, you probably need to be
So are there some
ready to
on this
present something.
commission that would be willing to get together and put a request before Gopher? And you heard the two deadlines, either October 13th or once the second date, Mary Jane?
Well, the 13th the agenda, I think, for that is probably already filled.
Okay,
But the 27th is our regular scheduled meeting, and then the next meeting will be in November. Now we're getting right down to the deadline, and unless
right.
Congress,
I think it would be
extends the
important to pull it together in October, and maybe Laura, you could reach out to Mary Jane and we put a proposal before them saying, you know, we have these various programs, but we have a segment of our population in need that is not accessing these programs for a variety of reasons, and we need dollars to be able to market it. We would need, maybe working with Sherry, to what would be the number that we would want to request from those CARES dollars to have an effective program.
I think it's really important to be working with both Department of Education through Sherry's office, and also with Health and Human Services, probably Maureen,
to come up with a number.
because they know the programs, they have a better feel for how much it would cost to do this kind of marketing and who would do it. I think you need to have all that kind of information.
Yeah,
ready.
because
Someone
SNAP,
should, I'm
SNAP
sorry.
has pretty strict guidelines on outreach, and it is a voluntary component of every state SNAP program. And our state currently does not have an outreach program. So we're technically not allowed to do direct marketing of programs, if we're going to use the word marketing.
Well, could
yeah.
we fund an outreach program?
Yeah, we currently do not have an outreach program in the state of New Hampshire. It is something that I think we could use right now. But due to funds being frozen, we're not able to move forward with an outreach program. So I think we would just have to check to see if something DHHS could do with these funds, because it would probably fall, if it was going to be housed on the DHHS website, it could be probably interpreted as outreach, and there's a whole process for SNAP outreach if SNAP is going to be included. So I think it's going to require a larger discussion.
Well, maybe you and Laura and Sherry could talk about, you know, how there might be a way for to get some funding for outreach. We don't have to call it marketing.
Call it outreach.
Call it outreach.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that if these funds have to be spent by 12/31, as far as SNAP goes, and I can only speak to SNAP, you have to submit a state plan to conduct outreach. You have to have funding for the program. It is not a match program where there's a one-to-one state to federal match, but it's a reimbursement program where the state actually pays administrative costs that have to get approved first by FNS. So I think the timing, and then we would get reimbursed up to 50% of those administrative costs to do this kind of work. So I'm happy to dig into this a little bit further.
Maybe it could come out of the Department of Education.
Yeah, the source of the state funding does not have to be, it could come out of the Department of Education, I believe. It doesn't have to be general funds. It could come from other public or private community as well. So there are options there.
Okay, but again, it sounds like, you know, there's a lot of red tape and bureaucracy to get through, and I don't know if there's any way to get around that. But anyway, it's an initiative that perhaps is worth considering, but it takes the expertise of various people on this commission to try to sort that out.
If you don't mind jumping in, here at the New Hampshire Food Bank, I know Maureen and I have talked a little bit about the SNAP outreach program and some of the limitations that exist. And we receive private funding to just provide SNAP information on where to apply through our network. And we have our mobile food pantries, and we're able to provide SNAP flyers. It's not through DHHS. There's no monetary exchange or anything like that. So that's something we do. Same thing with some of the programs that the DOE provides. We really try to ensure that that information is provided to the state and to our partners that are going to be directly in contact with the people who utilize them. And I know like flyers, they are costly, and then we have our social media page, and hopefully those that are going to be using it can see it there. So if there's anything, you know, the food bank can do, not speaking for everyone because I know we're at capacity, but if there's anything I specifically can do to help the outreach of some of these programs that aren't that are able to kind of move around some of the red tape, I'm happy to as a nonprofit.
And I don't want to lose the idea that Bill Sherry brought up, which is about trying to create a central focal point like they have for COVID, in terms of a portal to be able to then go and learn about all these different programs. I don't know how that could be created, but I don't want us to, we need to be thinking about that as well. Okay, so we are scheduled to meet in 2 weeks. That may be the last meeting under my leadership. But I would welcome any more updates you'd like to provide and any thoughts that you have in terms of recommendations going forward for the commission continue to consider. Usually what I try to do in a report is not to reprise everything that has come up through all our various minutes and discussions, but to attach the minutes for the various meetings and then to pull out the most salient points and recommendations in a brief cover report. I don't know if people like that idea, but I don't see why we should have to redo a lot of the information that's available and put it into a final report when people can go through the minutes. But any thoughts about that?
Seems reasonable, Martha.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Enjoy the beautiful foliage, and we will be online in 2 weeks.
Senator,
Yes.
so sorry.
We have to have a vote. We have to vote to, thank you, Jen. We have to have a vote to adjourn the meeting. So I need a motion to vote to adjourn, a second, and then we have to
So
have a
moved.
roll call vote.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Thank you. And then we'll call the roll. Claire Bloom? Mary Jane Wallner?
Yes.
Mary Lou Beaver?
Yes.
Maureen Burke?
Yes.
Susan Winnock?
Yes.
Laura Milliken?
Yes.
Brenda Minahan?
Yes.
Marcy Hornick?
Yes.
Elise Bolster?
Yes.
Will Sherry?
Yes.
And Rebecca Witkowski.
Yes.
And then I vote yes. So,
Thanks. I missed who seconded that motion to adjourn.
oh, who seconded it?
Susan Winnock.
Thank you.
Okay, terrific. Thank you all very much.
Thank
It's a
you.
challenging issue we're dealing with, and I appreciate your engagement. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you.
Thank you.